I'm sorry, but it seems the text you want me to edit is missing or has been deleted. Please provide the text, and I'll be happy to help with the corrections. Story 1. I was trying to talk intimately with my wife. I meant to say, put my large penis in your mouth, but I got jumbled up and said, put my penis in your large mouth. That was the end of that little session. Story 2. I went to swipe a wasp away from my now wife on our first date. I accidentally slapped her, and then when I went to check if she was okay, I elbowed her, bringing my arm back down. Also, around the fifth date, I was carrying the bags back to the car, and my wife asked if she could help as she was only carrying one bag. I replied, "No, it's fine. You're carrying enough weight already." She stopped dead and just stared at me while she processed this. She took it all very well, but likes to remind me every now and then. Story 3. This one wasn't actually me, but my sister. Sorry, Grace. She and her boyfriend at the time had spent the night together for the first time, and she has a sensitive stomach and is frequently gassy. She woke up early and felt the urge to fart, and remembered that a friend had told her that if she scooches to the edge of the bed, pointing her butt out of the covers and uses her hand to slightly spread her butt cheeks, it would be silent and wouldn't be trapped under the covers. So she did exactly that and heard her new boyfriend say, what just happened? Apparently, she didn't realize there was a mirrored closet behind her, and he had watched the entire thing. They are now happily married and trying to start a family. Story 4. I suggested she name her dildo after the blue wiggle for obvious reasons, so Anthony. Coincidentally, that's also the name of her father who left before she was born, which I didn't realize. It was kind of awkward. Story 5. She did something that was just like her mother. I, of course, pointed that out, and I swear my soul was ripped from my body for a few moments from the stare she gave me. Story 6. Was giving my girlfriend a massage and told her she had no shoulders, meaning she had no muscles. Boy, did she take that the wrong way and thought I called her fat. Story 7. My girlfriend had a problem with super puffy hands and fingers after running. Wow, your arms look so puffy. She looked at me and said, my arms have never been puffy. Also, the time she wanted my honest opinion on her purple lipstick. There were a lot of tears. Story 8. My boyfriend and I were talking about glasses frames because I need new ones. Him. What do you think about clear ones? Me, nah, aren't those out of style now? I think they make people's faces look bad. Him, oh. Guess who has clear frames and walked away sadly into the kitchen. I still feel bad. Normally he wears contacts. Story 9. I was playing with my significant other's penis while watching TV, just casually getting him in the mood. It's really soft, and I turned to him and said, "Ah, I love your little willy." I meant it in the same vein as, "Ah, I love my little cat." But, believe me, he remembers that even 8 years on. Story 10. One day my girlfriend was texting me, complaining about dealing with a certain coworker. The things she was complaining about were rather small, and I wasn't in a great mood and just wasn't ready to deal with it, as I was also busy at work. So, I made the mistake of texting her, "Hey, just relax." As soon as I saw the text send, I knew I had messed up badly. Story 11. I was 17 years old and my girlfriend at the time was packing for a trip. We were talking about the combination she should use for her luggage, and I suggested using the date of my birthday since her birthday would be too obvious. She then told me, "Oh, I already set it to October 13th. And me, in my infinite wisdom, foolishly said, "But why? That's an insignificant date." In 1 second, her face went through half a dozen expressions, each one more terrifying than the last. In that moment, I suddenly remembered that was the day of our first date. Luckily, before she could be really upset, I quickly blurted out, "Wait, that's the day we started going out." And all was forgiven. Story 12. One time we were making out early in the relationship, and I paused the session to ask something. He, disappointed at the interruption, said, "You know, you're bad at making out." Then I watched his brain catch up to his mouth, and an expression of, "What have I done? Oh no." Instant regret crossed his face. I laughed my ass off. We've been together 5 years. I have not forgotten. Story 13. We met in high school, so I pretty much did anything I could to impress her. She said she didn't like bananas. So for almost 6 years I've pretended to despise bananas and have to turn in an Oscar-worthy performance whenever I'm around her. And we see one. I'm in too deep now. I have to eat them in secret. It's a heavy burden. Story 14. Not my significant other, but my date, who was a transfer student from abroad, still learning my language. We were casually talking about birthdays, and hers happened to be in September, so I asked her, "Are you a Virgo?" The problem is that in my language, we use the same word for Virgo and virgin. So I looked up, and she was looking at me terrified for a second before I explained that in my language, Virgo and virgin are the same word. Story 15. First date with my now wife. Thai food. Great. We loved it. Awesome time. Dropped her off at home. Went inside to talk more since it was winter. After a 13-hour workday and a date, I promptly passed out. About an hour later, she's on the other couch dozing and watching me sleep. Well, what I haven't mentioned is that Thai food does a few things to me. 1. Makes me insanely sleepy, apparently. Gives me loud farts. I've been holding one and off and on again for the better part of 2 hours. I have post-traumatic stress disorder and regularly jerk awake ready to fight. There I am, snoozing along with her peacefully dozing when incredibly that same fart decides to pull a sneaky escape. Due to the noise, I jerk awake and start swinging, either from the fart or the instant giggling from the other couch. I instantly realize what's happened and act like I'm asleep still. 10+ years and 4 kids later, I still cringe about it. Probably nothing but cringy embarrassment. This might not be what you were looking for in the original post, but man, I still think about it once a week randomly. Story 16. Oof, I have a good one. Backstory. There's a girl in our town who killed herself when she was 16. She set it up so her ex-boyfriend would find her to make him feel guilty for breaking up with her the day before. I never knew her. One night in my dorm, my now husband, but at the time we had only been together a month, and I were talking. Somehow she came up. I said, "Yeah, she's an asshole to have done that." He was obviously pissed off and his whole attitude changed. And he said, "You mean my cousin?" I still cringe when I think about it. Story 17. We've been together for 23 years, and we have these moments all the time. The best part of being together for so long is that there is rarely anything said that upsets the other. Usually, we just laugh at how silly we are. Story 18. We were taking a shower together. I was very gassy. I opened the shower curtain to fart. It smelled terrible and the smell wasn't going away. Turns out I had accidentally soiled the edge of the shower. My significant other handled it very well but immediately got out. Edit. I didn't realize this was on Ask Men, so just to clarify, I'm not a man, but Story 19. We were wrestling, and I was jokingly threatening him to shove my finger up his rear. I was fumbling around in the general area and accidentally touched his butt gently. I thought it was lower down. Super gentle touch. And yet it was like the earth stood still. We both froze, and he doesn't trust me around his rear to this day, even though my accidental contact happened 10 years ago. Story 20. I took video footage of an unstable ex who would blow up at me for no reason periodically. When she calmed down, I showed it to her. You can imagine the reaction. It was considered an act of inconsiderateness, not one of justifying why I was right, which I kind of understand from her point of view. That's when I knew it was over. I'm sure I got the idea from Everybody Loves Raymond. And that's how it went down badly. Story 21. My family was joking, saying I was the only single one left among the siblings. I said, "Yeah, because all the guys around aren't my type, blah blah." My sister says I also scare people, and my brother goes, "Yes, you're your own contraception." And the table went dead quiet before I snort laughed. Story 22. Sometimes I get an idea that just feels hilarious, but isn't. One time, I took my girlfriend of 2.5 years to a fancy restaurant. The napkins were black, and for some reason, I got the idea that I could fold it up like an engagement ring box and fake propose. So I did. I laughed to myself as I folded up the napkin into a box shape. I quickly dropped out of my seat onto one knee at the edge of the table and said something like, You're my best friend and the love of my life. In that instant, I knew what I had done. I saw her light up to the highest of highs, and then immediately drop to the lowest of lows. The rest of the dinner was awkward, but she forgave me. We got engaged for real a year later, and we've been married for 4 years now, and are expecting a little girl in January. It all worked out in spite of me. Story 23. I'm 5 feet tall. My boyfriend and I were at a party, and I met a friend of his called Tanya. Conversation in the car after the party. Me. Wow, Tanya is really sweet. And she's hot. Him. Well, she's short, so she automatically falls into the cute category. My 5-foot-tall self then just said, "Oh," and he immediately realized what he said and frantically tried to backpedal. It was pretty funny. I was not offended, but I did bring it up every so often to annoy him. Story 24. I have been with a woman for 7 years now, pretty much since we were teens. I have always told her I wasn't ticklish. Of course, she has tested this theory many times, and I always keep a straight face just long enough for her to lose interest and stop tickling because it seems ineffective. I told her this because I didn't want her to hold the ticklish power over me, as I knew she would abuse it. Started off as a joke to myself, and I never thought I'd last this long pretending not to be ticklish. Maybe about a year ago, I thought to myself, this is silly to keep this up. I should just tell her I'm screaming in laughter on the inside when she tries to tickle me. So I did. I told her I was ticklish and now she tickles me. The end. Story 25. Here's the revised text. Another point of view, but one time my boyfriend was laying his head on my stomach while we were watching TV and said, "Your tummy is like a waterbed mattress." Not sure how that compliment is supposed to go. Story 26. My friends and I have an ongoing game of tag that we play, like in the movie Tag. I was making out with my girlfriend, who is also in the game, and as it was getting heated, I gently whispered in her ear, "You're it." I instantly thought, that was the poorest timing, what an idiot. But she ended up laughing her ass off and thought it was hilarious. Big win, boys. Story 27. So, my ex was a random bar hookup that turned into a relationship. The second or third time hooking up and seeing each other, we finished, and he proceeded to say something along the lines of, "Wow, that was the best I've ever had." To which I responded jokingly because I'm awkward and stupid and, to be honest, didn't want him to get cocky. "Yeah, that was great. Definitely top 5. I thought I was playing hard to get, but instead, I gave him a complex. It didn't help that he was recently out of a 9-year relationship, during which he lost his 20s, and I had been single for years, so I had naturally been with more people than him. The relationship realistically never should have progressed past that point, but it did, and that moment got brought up all the time. We really never had a chance. Story 28. I was just roasting people in the car I was in, and without thinking, I said that she had teeth like Freddie Mercury. She wouldn't talk to me for the rest of the day. Story 29. One of the worst was 19 years ago. We had been having trouble conceiving, and he had a child from a previous high school relationship. We were in an argument, and he said, "We know who the problem is because we both know I can make a baby." We did go on to have 3 kids, but I've been happily divorced for 10 years. Story 30. Oh, the pain. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was laying on the bed, and she was reading. My dog decided that she wanted to hump my leg. Of course, my wife thought this was funnier than anything, so, being the genius I am, I tried to explain what it meant and that it was nothing sexual. Big mistake. I explained to her that she did it because she was trying to establish dominance over me and that it is normal behavior for dogs. It has been about 7 years since that decision. I now have to live every day wondering when I am going to get dry humped again. My wife thinks dominating me is the best thing since sliced bread. I had hoped that she would have lost interest, but nope. For 7 years, I get dominated while I wash dishes, when I am trying to read, before I wake up, in the shower, in public when she thinks no one is looking. 7 frustrating years. Quick update. It just happened again for the 3rd time today. I bent down to tie my shoes, and my wife ambushed me, dominated me from behind, and sang, "Oh hot damn. This is my jam. Keep me partying till the morning. You all do not understand. make me throw my hands in the air, air. Story 31. While working together and before we started dating, my now significant other was drunkenly hanging out at my place with a group of our friends. Nearing the end of the night, he informed the room that, if I had to, I would have sex with night flax. Wanna have sex, night flax? Yeah, that didn't sound appealing. I sent him next door in drunken shame. None of us have let him live that one down. Story 32. Not so instant, but my one regret. A lifetime ago, my significant other at the time asked me to walk her to work as she was nervous about her safety. We had an argument and, like a fool, I refused. Nothing happened to her, but I knew deep in my heart that I had let us both down terribly. We broke up soon after. I had the opportunity to apologize more than a decade later, and she had forgotten about it, but I never did. It was one of my worst moments and maybe my only regret. But I learned from it and I never let down subsequent partners like that again. Story 33. We hung our bachelor degrees on the living room wall. One day she asked, "Why does yours get to hang above mine?" I blurted, "Because I actually use mine." It has since been replaced by her doctoral degree and what's left of my sarcasm. Story 34. My ex had such a moment with me. She went on a tirade about how much she hates cats to me because she was allergic, and talked herself into a sort of frenzy about how cats should all just get exterminated for being stupid and annoying. She didn't know that my cat had died earlier that day,